Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into a really fascinating story. It's a journey that starts with an artist trying to do the impossible, leads him through a pretty epic failure, and lands in a place with a completely new way of thinking about, well, all of history.
But let me start by asking you something. Can you paint an idea? I don't mean a picture of a thing, but the concept itself. How would you even begin to put something as massive, as tangled as history onto a canvas?
And that's exactly where our story kicks off, with one person's incredibly ambitious quest to do just that, to paint history. So, back in the summer of 2001, the author of our source material set himself this just monumental task. And we're not talking about painting a battle scene or a portrait of a king. No, this was about capturing the very idea of history, its flow, its patterns, the deep, hidden logic under the surface.
As you can imagine, this quickly spiraled beyond just one painting. It blew up into this huge, open-ended project, a mix of disciplines he called the History Project. It was this giant attempt to build an interconnected web of art and music and writing, all to explore this one single, powerful concept.
But when you aim that high, you're bound to run into some serious obstacles. And in this case, a massive failure turned out to be the real turning point of the whole story.
And I mean, the effort put into this was just staggering. Between 2001 and 2005, the project churned out almost 1,000 paintings, over 1,000 original songs, and literally thousands of pages of text. A truly colossal amount of creative work.
And then, this. In the author's own incredibly blunt words, the project just failed. Totally and miserably. After years of nonstop work, that central goal, to actually paint the concept of history, it was never reached.
But here's where it gets really interesting. That spectacular failure, it wasn't an ending at all. It was actually the fertile ground from which this entirely new, complex system for understanding the past would begin to grow.
So, out of the ashes of this failed art project came a completely new perspective, seeing history not as a straight line, but as a complex, living system.
And this really gets to the heart of the shift in thinking. Traditional history is often seen as this linear story, A, then B, then C, a static record you just read. This new perspective totally reimagines it as a complex, tangled web, a dynamic system that you have to navigate, not just read.
This new way of looking at things is called historiomics. So if history is what happened, and historiography is how we write about what happened, then historiomics is trying to get at the underlying code, the patterns, the structures, you could even say the algorithms that are driving the whole thing.
And the thing that historiomics studies, it's called the historiome. This is basically the whole shebang, the totality of all historical data. Every event, every influence, every person, all connected in this vast, constantly evolving web. It's not some dusty old library, it's a living, dynamic database of our entire past. Okay, so if history is this massive, complex system, how do we actually interact with it? That brings us to our next section, a revelation in time.
I mean, if we're all just tiny little nodes living inside this giant web of the historium, how do we experience it? Does this system ever kind of reveal itself to us?
Well, according to this framework, it absolutely does. And that experience is called a historiophany. You can think of it like a historical epiphany. It's that sudden aha moment where a hidden connection between the past and the present just clicks into place, and you suddenly feel history as this powerful living force. So what triggers something like that? It's fascinating, really. It's often a crisis in the present. That crisis acts like a key, unlocking some kind of nonlinear connection within the historium. And all of a sudden, a past event resonates with a present struggle, and your understanding of both just completely transforms.
This leads to a really powerful idea. If history is a system, and systems can have problems, can history be healed? This is what we're exploring next, therapy for the past.
So first things first, we have to identify the problems. The system gives them a name, historiopathies. You can think of these as dysfunctions or illnesses within the historical system itself, things like repeating cycles of trauma that a culture gets stuck in, or long periods of stagnation. They're like blockages in the system. But where are these illnesses stored? This is where the theory gets really personal. It proposes this concept of physio-images, which basically argues that history isn't just out there, it's in here. The idea is that powerful experiences, especially traumas, leave these bioelectrical imprints on our bodies.
We are physically carrying our histories with us.
And if you have historical illnesses, well, that leads you to historiotherapy. This is the proposed method for actually healing these historiopathies. By untangling the blockages in our collective story and reevaluating the influence of our embodied past, the idea is that we can start to heal both our collective and our personal historical wounds.
So our story takes one final incredible turn. After decades spent building this entire system, the author's journey has now shifted from trying to understand the past to trying to find liberation from it.
And get this quote from just 2023. The author says, "Now I am seeing what this obsession with history is costing me. I need to liberate myself from my history and history itself." It's incredible. The very identity of being an archivist, of being obsessed with the past, started to feel less like a tool and more like a prison.
And so a totally new quest has begun. It's not about building the archive anymore, but about dismantling it. The goal now is to unhistorify the self, to detach from the immense weight of a meticulously documented past so that you can live more freely in the present moment.
And this really brings our whole journey full circle, leaving us with a pretty profound question to think about. Is our past a static record that we have to preserve at all costs? Or is it a dynamic system, one that we can and maybe even should seek to heal? Something to chew on. Thanks for watching.